Are you an adventurer looking to take your hunt to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the East Meets West Hunt podcast presented by Spartan Forge. On today's episode, I am joined by four-time NCAA Wrestling finalist, three-time champion, and MMA Pro Fighter and hunter Bo Nickal. Bo has excelled in everything that he's done up until this point and recently got into hunting. We discussed getting into hunting, his first elk in Colorado last year, how wild game meat fits into the life of an athlete, nutrition, finding reliable sources of hunting information, and discipline in being successful. On this week's Mountain Buck Monday Story of the Week, this one comes from Rocky Smith out of Alabama. And Rocky said, I was fortunate to harvest 2 mountain bucks on northern Alabama public land last fall. The first buck was one I had been after all season, and I finally got a crack at him on the last rifle hunt for that area. I had several pictures of the buck throughout the fall, but had almost given up, and mentally, I was planning for the off-season scouting. An hour before daylight, an intense rainstorm came through with the buck on his feet after it cleared. This buck was a 12-point, 9 points with 3 kickers. I took him over 2 miles deep in the big woods. I got my second mountain buck for this last season 1 week after I harvested the 12-point. This was a nice 9-point taken out of one of my favorite areas on my first hunt of this piece of public ground for the season. I had historical data to know the buck should be cruising in this area in pre-rut patterns. The buck had came cruising through just before the end of shooting light on a trail on a bench coming out of a thicket into the hardwoods. This was a special treat as I had no pictures from this area for the season at that time. Thanks for the great info in your podcast. Well, thank you, Rocky. I appreciate you sharing that, and I hope everyone goes over, as usual, to Instagram, East Meets West Hunt, and Facebook, East Meets West Outdoors, to check out the photos of both of these bucks that Rocky took last year. And man, that's honestly a dream season to be able to take 2 bucks in 1 year in the big woods, 1 week after another, after a long season of hunting. There's a lot of things that can be taken from that, as I talk about with Bo in this podcast about, the ones that are successful, just keep grinding and keep going after it. And this story is definitely something that pulls from that. And a couple other things that I noted from this story was historical data, understanding, from previous seasons, knowing that that second buck there hadn't even been in there this year, but he knew pre-rut patterns from that historical data. And also on the I think it was the second one too, with it being on the edge of that thicket and the hardwood. So there's a couple things that we talk about a lot in this podcast that came out of this story. And so just congratulations, Rocky. What an incredible couple bucks there, and thanks for sharing that. So send in your stories. Go to eastmeetswesthunt.com, go into the Contact Us form, send in your story and some photos, or just send me an email at Bo at eastmeetswesthunt.com. In other news, I got a layering system video going on YouTube. This one has to do with big game hunting. I recorded this or filmed this. Justin filmed it when we were on our bear hunt. Just kind of the concepts of the layering system, what I was wearing on that hunt. It's very similar to what I use for elk hunting. Just a few little tweaks, but pretty similar to spring and early September like that are similar times of year. So going to have that video go up here this week. So make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Beau Martonik. Also, with that, I do want to say, I realized I didn't bring it up last week because it happened, I think, right after I released this episode. But last week, I lost my personal email account. So when I say I lost it, I didn't lose the password or anything. I just went to check my email one day, and it said that my account was deactivated. There's no reason for it, no anything that was on there. I have no way of getting in contact with Google. Found a few phone numbers. None of them worked. Can't find any customer support email. Tried asking questions. I can't get anything from them. So if anybody has any contacts within Google and would love to be able to help out or get me in contact with them, that would be amazing. I have over 15 years worth of emails and Google Drive documents that I lost in a matter of no time, photos, all this stuff. It's very disappointing. I think I know kind of what happened, which I had and I'll keep it short here for the reason of this podcast, but I had an old email account that was under a domain name called OneWoods, and anybody in Pennsylvania that knows Pennswoods, that's basically like a Craigslist. That's what I made that account for back in high school, and it had migrated with Google many years ago, and I just kept signing into it. I had a different domain name, but it was still a Gmail account, and I've used it for everything other than most of my East Meets West stuff is under my new business email. But a lot of stuff there was pretty disheartening to lose that. The biggest problem that I have is that's tied to my YouTube account. Luckily, my YouTube channel is still live, and I can't figure out how to switch my email to from my YouTube to a different email. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. I have not found any answers for it, how to do that. So if anyone's more intelligent than I am in this and can help out, I would really greatly appreciate that. But yeah, so that sucked pretty bad. But other than that, we're 3 weeks out from when I leave for Montana to go elk hunting. Have a really busy time of year right now, just trying to record podcasts, trying to get things done so that so I can get content rolling out while I'm on that hunt and basically operate as if I am still, working at that point. So Justin's going to be out there with me filming the hunt for potentially up to 3 weeks. So we have 21 days planned to elk hunt in Montana. Also have a deer tag in that area. My mule deer tag is not good, but the whitetail tag is. So I'll be doing a little bit of hunting of that, and so that's exciting, but just trying to get ready for it, making sure my bow's good, all my gear, going through that stuff like crazy, just trying to get ready. It's coming extremely fast. So I hope everyone else is preparing for their season whenever that starts and getting ready for it. The last thing I'll say is I'm doing a couple podcasts this week and next week, just trying to prepare for this time being off and a lot of deer related stuff. And the deer, a couple of the topics that I'm planning on hitting on early season bigwood stuff. I think I'm going to do that with Greg Litzinger. So Greg, bow hunting fiend, he's been on here before, a great friend of mine. So if you have any questions that you want us to discuss, send that over to my email. And then also a different podcast with a guy from Oklahoma that's just an incredible hunter, and he's very detailed about the weather. So I'm going to do some weather related stuff there. So if you have questions on weather with fronts or anything else that you have questions on that, please reach out and let me know so I can ask those questions. But other than that, I'll just let you get into this podcast here with Bo Nickal. It's a really good one. Bo's a good dude. Got a cool name too. But anyways, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you soon. All right, Bo Nickal, welcome to the podcast, buddy. It's good to get to have you on.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm excited to chat it up. So yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know, Bo is a 4-time NCAA wrestling finalist, 3-time champion, whole bunch of other wrestling background, and now an MMA pro fighter here. So, and also a hunter. And that's one of how you and I first started talking was through Instagram, and you'd sent me a message about the Pennsylvania elk. I think it had something to do with Pennsylvania elk there, and we started chatting back and forth a little bit, so that was cool.
Yeah, for sure. Wrestled a long time, fight now, and just recently started getting into hunting. So but I'm really all in on I guess all those areas and big passions of mine.
Yeah, and you're a Pennsylvania resident now, right? You still live in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. So I got to PA in 2014, come to school at Penn State, and I've been here ever since then. So I got my Pennsylvania license, what would it have been? Maybe like 3 years ago, 2019, I want to say. So yeah, been a PA resident for a few years now.
Nice. And you're originally from Colorado, is that correct?
Yeah, so I kind of moved around a bunch growing up, but I was born in Colorado and lived there for a while. I still have a lot of family there and stuff, so I'm back in Colorado quite a bit.
I gotcha. So yeah, give a little bit of a background on just kind of, how you grew up, and then, just kind of a brief overview of how you grew up and then how you got into wrestling. And I know that we're not gonna focus a lot on that, as I know you probably talk about that enough in other avenues. So I wanted to change it up a little bit here for you, but just give a little bit of a background on that, kind of growing up and how you got to, even going to state college there and where you're at now.
Yeah, for sure. So I pretty much started wrestling like as soon as I was born. My grandpa wrestled in college and was a wrestling coach. My dad was a wrestling coach and he wrestled his whole life. So, it was just kind of like in my blood, I guess. And from the very beginning of my earliest memories, I just remember like being in the wrestling room, being at tournaments and stuff. So I started competing when I was 5, competed for, a little over 20 years. And, was able to get a scholarship and go to Penn State and won a few national championships there, which was a really awesome experience. And then continuing post collegiate, I tried out for the Olympics in 2021 and I took second at the Olympic trials. So didn't make the Olympic team, but that was, for me, a goal I had that I didn't achieve, but the timeline it didn't really work out for me to keep pursuing wrestling because I was just more passionate about MMA and starting that transition. And I didn't really want to, chase two rabbits. So I have been all in on MMA since last August. So it'll be coming up on a year now. I've been full-time training MMA, and just that's what I do every single day is I wake up, I go to the gym, I train. I still have to keep my wrestling sharp for fighting. So I'm still training at Penn State with a lot of the guys that are on the college team and stuff and helping them out. But yeah, I'm 100% committed to MMA. Just had my first pro fight a month ago and I'll have my next pro fight August 9th.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it seemed like that came pretty quick. Like, I mean, it seemed like, you just talked about just starting, MMA a couple years ago and you progressed pretty quickly in that sport. Do you think, I mean, from the outside, it looks like, your wrestling obviously has a lot to be able to do with that, but also, your striking ability from watching some of the clips and everything of the fights was pretty incredible. So have you had to work pretty hard on that side of it, or did that come, natural to you? How did that look?
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely working hard on it. I have great coaches and some great partners around me, luckily. So when I transitioned over to MMA, I built a gym in State College. So I actually started a gym out here, and there's pro classes for me we just have a couple other guys, but we also have classes for the public and everything. And so I'm training there every day. And like I said, got great coaches, great partners. So I think that I've progressed pretty quickly in the striking. But I've also put a lot of time in and a lot of effort in. And I'm really I would say, a lot more disciplined and committed than most people in regards to that type of stuff. I mean, like I said, I get up, I train. When I'm have time off, I'm watching film. I just really feel passionate about fighting. I love it, and when I'm not looking to figure out, new techniques and how to be a better fighter, I'm watching hunting videos and stuff. So
that's funny. It's because you'll be the third person that I've had that is in MMA on the podcast so far. I've had Chad Mendez and then also Corey Anderson on before, and Corey and I have become friends through, I'd see him at all the shows and shoot together and everything, and through that I've realized that in that space there's a lot of hunters, I guess. Like, there's a lot more than just those couple guys that I've talked to. And I believe that you had said when we were messaging back and forth that you didn't grow up hunting, did you?
No, so my grandpa and dad were super into hunting. So like I said, I was born in Colorado, but my dad and his whole family are from Wyoming. So when I was probably 6, we moved to Wyoming, and just the southeastern corner, 100 miles north of Cheyenne, and near the Nebraska border. And so my grandpa was a farmer, and they had probably 3,000 or 4,000 acres out there. And so great mule deer hunting and great duck hunting, geese, pheasants, all kinds of stuff. So that was like, I remember in my mornings growing up, it would be like I would wake up and get ready for school. My dad would be like coming back from hunting. And so my grandpa did that a ton. But for me, I was always wrestling. And it was like, right in wrestling season was like primetime hunting season. So it was never something that I had time for. But it was always around me. It was always something I was like interested in, but like I just didn't really ever like pursue it. And so once I graduated college and I had, more time for myself and, I didn't have to do school anymore, and I found myself like with all this free time, I'm like, all right, like what do I want to like spend my free time on? Like I want to find something else that I'm passionate about other than my career. And so I thought, I was like, I can't remember. It was actually probably like a Cameron Haynes video or something. I saw Cameron Haynes shooting a bow, and I think I heard or maybe listened to him on Rogan or something. And I was like, I think I could do that. I think that like I would like that. And so I waited maybe like 6 months. And I wanted to make sure I really like wanted to do it. And after 6 months, I was like still thinking about it. I was like, I got to do this. So I hit a couple people up and was like, where do I need to go to get set up to bow hunt with a compound bow and stuff? And that I got directed to Lancaster Archery. And so last summer, this led up to last summer. Last summer, I got in touch with those guys and drove out to Lancaster and got set up with a bow and everything. And like since then, I've just been practicing as much as I can. And I've gone out bow hunting a couple times for whitetail in PA. And then last fall, I was able to go to Colorado, hunt elk. And I'm actually starting outfitter in Colorado with a family member of mine. We have access to about 5,000 acres. We have like, I would say like 1,000 owned and then another 4,000 leased, where we're going to be guiding hunts and stuff. So I'm like all in on it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It kind of sounds like that's your mentality with anything that you kind of do in life, is just kind of going all in with it. But what have you found like with getting into, archery, and was it a struggle for you to kind of pick up and go with it? Were people able to help you from a coaching standpoint, or how did that look?
Yeah. I think that for me with archery, I knew I've been doing it like close to a year. So like, I really have just barely even scratched the surface, but, I think I got set up really well at Lancaster. Like they have a great shop and some awesome people out there that helped me get set up. And I think just having that foundation of getting set up correctly really helps big time. I know like I had shot bows in the past that were just like my dad's or like other people's that weren't really like fitted to me and not really like, like just what was best for how I'm built. And then going to Lancaster Archery, like being able to try out like 10 different bows and get completely set up, have my sights correct, get my draw length and everything, and get that all perfect. Like when I first was like shooting my bow, I was like at 20, 30 yards. I was like, this is like a gun. Like I'm like right in there. I didn't think that I could do it. And obviously like in a hunting scenario, it's going to be different and everything, but it shocked me how well like I could shoot just by getting set up correctly. And, obviously now I'm practicing out like 60, 70 yards and it gets completely different at that point. And I'm still working on honing my skills in and getting better every day. But nowadays it just seems like there's so many resources for archery hunters between like Knock On and, different videos. Like I watch a ton of John Dudley stuff and like, he's the man. In addition to that, like tons of people just want to help me, I think, because they watch me wrestle and stuff. And like you said, there's a decent amount of crossover from like wrestlers and fighters to like hunters. And I've been pretty fortunate with people wanting to help me out. And then also just, being passionate about it, like practicing a lot.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And it's funny, like I used to work at a archery pro shop in the past, and that was like one of the biggest things that I learned from like teaching new people was if you get them set up and teach them right from the beginning, because it's so much harder to break bad habits, or if they have, bad form or not the bow that's set up correctly for them, because that that can make a world of difference in being consistent and being accurate. And you're spot on with John Dudley's stuff. Like, I mean, I still refer to that all the time. And as I'm, I have a little bow shop in my basement, as I'm building things and working on things, I'm always referencing videos. It's a good time to be able to get into things. There's a lot of resources, a lot of places, good pro shops, like Lancaster there that are able to help people out and do it. And one thing that you had said about how you're driving tacks at 20, 30 yards and the difference in a hunting scenario, where I think that you will probably be fine with it, is you're used to working in high pressure situations. And I think that's where a lot of times people can fall apart in those, including myself, in those scenarios where once you have that pressure and your adrenaline's through the roof, can you execute? And that's kind of where the reps come into the play of it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So it definitely is different, but I was able to rifle hunt elk third season in Colorado last fall, and it was from everybody that I talked to, like, that time in Colorado, it was tough. Like, there was a lot of people that weren't successful. And I have a family member that's out there that knows the land really well. And so I got out there a couple of days before season started, and I hunted for I think I was out like scouting and hiking and stuff for 8 straight days. But I think it was the 5th day of the season when I finally got an opportunity. And there was a herd that came out around some trees. It was like 230 yards away, and it was probably like 30-ish cows. And then the very last elk that walked through was like a nice sized bull, like the biggest one that I had seen so far. And I was just like, don't look at his antlers, like, just put it on his vitals and squeeze the trigger. And I just think that, like you said, all of those high pressure situations that I've been in with wrestling and fighting, competing and stuff like that, it was almost just like instinct, like just zone everything out and execute. Don't think about anything. I mean, and again, it's way easier on a rifle than it is on a bow. Like, there's way more going on a bow, but like, just knowing that I had been in high pressure situations, I just put it right behind the shoulder and squeeze the trigger and smoked him 230 yards out. He dropped it. I mean, he hit the ground and then came back up and was down and like 10 yards away. So it was like and that's the first animal. I mean, the first big game that I've ever hunted. And it was like the most amazing experience ever. It felt like, honestly, better than like winning a match or a fight. It was because it was so much work leading into that moment. And yeah, being able to execute in that situation was like the coolest thing.
Yeah. And so when you were on that hunt, being your first like big game hunt, did you know much about elk leading up to it from living out there? Was it pretty green for you of trying to figure out how they're moving, some of their tendencies, some of those types of things?
Oh, I definitely felt really green. Like I said, my uncle who I was with, he's hunted there for 30 plus years. So, with him being there with me, it was like, I was just trying to soak up as much as I could and learn as much as I could from him. And I did a ton of research before, but the first time I had seen an elk in person, like even on binos or anything, was that hunt. So I had never really had encounters or anything like that. And, I felt like I learned so much I was really glad that I didn't get out there and see him first day of the season and then just smoke one, like an easy shot. It was like, we were grinding. I probably put on I was up every day at 4 a.m. and there out every day until dark for, like I said, 8 days straight. And I was really just trying to soak up as much as I could from that experience. And, obviously I wanted to be successful, but there was a time where I was like, man, I might have gone all the way out here and for 10 days and just not even get a chance. So that's how it goes. But I think for it being my first hunt, it was a perfect experience because I got to learn a lot. It was difficult. We were really grinding up early, hiking, putting the miles on, and then, being able to be successful when it was kind of do or die time, it felt good.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And anytime that you're on a hunt for that long, and it takes that long to have an opportunity, it's a mental struggle even more than a physical one of like, oh, am I going to get a chance? Is this, you start, these things doubts start creeping into your mind a little bit, and it can make it difficult, but it definitely is so much more satisfying. Like it took me until my 4th year of elk hunting to kill one with a bow, and it was like almost 40 days worth of hunting before I'd killed one, and it was just like it made that moment so so special when it happened. It's just like it was like the best moment of hunting that I've ever had, because you really feel like you've worked for it, I guess.
Yeah, for real. I feel like, so last fall, like, I mean, I just got my bow in maybe July, and I was like, I'm not going to go try to kill an elk after having a bow for 3 months. Like, it's just, it almost seemed like if I were to do that, like I would be disrespectful. And so I was like, I'm going to like just grind it out for at least till next season, maybe longer, until like I feel like I'm really ready to go. So I can't imagine what it's going to feel like when I get one with a bow, but I'll probably cry because I'm still putting tons of reps in, just trying to get my entire sequence down and have everything down pat to where, there's the chances, I just give myself the best chance to be successful and stuff. It's been way more work. Like I said, with the rifle, it's different. Still such an amazing thing, but I just feel like really called to archery hunting, and the challenge of it and everything just kind of speaks to me. And I just know, like, when I get that first bull with a bow, I'm gonna like be so happy.
Yeah. And it's funny because like for a while I had really only archery hunted, and it was just like, that was just kind of what I did. I liked it. And then in the last few years I started doing some more rifle hunts, and just from an opportunity standpoint, and I love that. Like, I mean, I love rifle hunting. Like, it's a different challenge. It's a different way of looking at it. Being, good at your rifle at longer ranges and all of those different things has just a different sort of fun, but there's nothing like being like super close. And once you go out in like September and you got bugling elk in your face, and you get, within, 60 yards or within 30 yards, whatever it is, like, it's just a whole nother world. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I seriously can't wait. I'll send you some pictures of the herds that we have on our property, but they're pretty freaking amazing. We got like some 360 plus bulls down, and the Colorado River runs right through our land. So like, it's literally insane. And that's where I'll be hunting this fall. So I'm really looking forward to, like you said, getting up close and personal with them when they're bugling. I can't imagine, and I can't wait. And I watched so many videos and so many like of those like little mini documentaries, the hunting ones, and they just like fire me up every time. I just love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so is this this land that you were hunting, is that where you're going to be doing the outfitting business too?
Yeah. So the plan right now, like I said, my uncle's hunted there for, his pretty much his whole life. So he has a very good grasp of the land, and he's not only been hunting there, but he's hunted all over the world. Like, he's been up to the Arctic Circle, up in Canada, pretty much, all the Western states. And I mean, you go to his house and it's like massive mule deer mounts, massive elk mounts, caribou, bears. Like, he's like so experienced. So for me, I'm going to try to just learn as much as I can from him and be able to guide people, be able to take people out and stuff. But yeah, we're going to be partnering up and doing that together. And so I'll hunt there. I mean, I'll be able to get, we get landowner tags. So I'll be able to get landowner or tags there for mule deer every year. And then all the elk tags except for first season rifle are OTC. So, I mean, I have a place that I can go at any time, but for this year it'll be there. And then I'm going to try to like keep putting in and branching out in other states and other places and for years coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you've caught the bug that you want to start going to some more places. Is there anything like in particular? I mean, it sounds like elk with a bow is kind of like your next like thing that you want to do, but is there any species or places you want to go to for whatever reason?
Mm-hmm. the next goal is definitely elk with a bow. I want to get a big mule deer with a bow this year too. So elk and mule deer, but I really want to get into I want to do like some predator hunts too. I want to get a mountain lion with a bow. I don't think very many people have done that. So like I know of a couple outfitters in Wyoming, and I think I talked with a guy maybe in Montana that they guide for lion hunts and stuff. So that's like probably next on my list is just to get a massive lion. And that, to me, that's like, I don't know. I treat like fighting is really, really like primal and instinctual and like, you know, in my DNA, I feel like, and hunting is like that too. It feels like, you know, the exact same. And so I just think it would be so cool to like get on a big predator hunt and like see one of those massive lions like in a tree or whatever. Like that's just, you know, those things are just insane, so dangerous. And like I kind of like use a lot of predator analogies in like how I approach fighting and stuff. So to be able to do that would be super cool. And then I want to go like probably up north to like Alaska and Canada and hunt out there as well. But yeah, I would like to get into predators after I get an elk.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Mountain lions definitely on my list too. It's like there's something I've had like fascinated with mountain lions, and ever since I was like a kid. Like I just think they're just like one of like the ultimate predators out there, and they're just so sneaky, and you just never see them. And it's just like they're so. And you look at a little house cat, how much power them damn things have, and then you look at like something that size. It's kind of a, you know, a humbling feeling to be when you're out there hunting them when they could easily just be, you know, hunting you at the same point. And my buddy Clint killed one in New Mexico, and he went with a bow hunt there where they had dogs and everything. And he said, he goes, man, like I thought like, you know, the dogs basically get on a track and they tree line and you kill one, you know. And he's like, but it was one of the most physically demanding hunts that I've ever done. He's like, we were riding around on horseback, you know, he goes, if you ever rode on horse for a long period of time, it's sore, it's uncomfortable the whole time. And you're hiking up and down, you're following these dogs, you're doing all this stuff. And he's like, it was one of the you know, best experiences. And mountain lion meat tastes good. So it's like, it's, you know, with some predators, you know, as far as like, you know, coyotes, wolves and stuff, it's more predator control than the meat. But with mountain lions and bears, you have the ability to be able to get meat out of them too.
Yeah, for sure. And like, that's definitely such a cool part. I feel like for me personally, I don't think I would kill anything that I'm not also going to eat. Like it would maybe be cool to like go to Africa and like get a jaguar or something. But like, I'm not going to, I don't think I could do it. Like it has to be, in addition of the love of the hunt and the pureness of that, of like, you know, pursuing an animal and stuff and being successful, like bringing the meat back, like is almost essential. Like I still have probably I think I got a little over 200 pounds of meat from that elk. So I probably have like 100 left maybe at this point. And like, I'm just smashing that every day. So like, I love it. Like, it's the best feeling too. Like when I came back, I took like the back straps and and I put it in a vacuum sealed bags, and I just brought it straight back with me. Cause I was like, I'm not giving this to the processor. Like no shit.
Yeah.
So I just like got a cooler and took it back with me on the plane and like put some dry ice in the cooler. And when I brought it back, I was able to feed my wife and some of my family with it. Like right away, we thawed it out, and it was like literally the coolest thing I've ever done. I was like so proud and happy to have been able to do that, and they all loved it. It was just like tastes amazing, and yeah, that was like for me such a cool thing, and that was actually a big part of why I got into hunting, because you know, for me being an athlete, like I got to take care of myself, my health. My nutrition is such an important part of it. And so, you know, the best game, in my opinion, the best thing you can eat, in my opinion, is wild game.
Yeah. And, you know, it's in wild game. Yeah. It's basically what I live off of at this point. Like my whole freezer is just full of it at all times. It's actually getting pretty low at this point. And, yeah, I just shot a bear like a month and a half ago, and I've got a majority of it eaten already. And cause like, you know, I have friends over, family, and it's just like, I love, you know, being able to cook it up. And I really liked it with the bear too, because it's like, you know, people don't always think of, you know, bears as being something that would be good tasting. But I was like, tell me the difference between deer or, you know, any other kind of wild game by eating it. And it's, you can't really tell. And you're so on point with that. And I've always been fascinated with like the nutrition aspect of it, and related to performance and mental health and all those different things that can come from, you know, eating healthy and wild game. There's no more pureness than that. You know exactly where that came from and how that's going to work for you.
Oh, 100%. And I think it almost directly correlates with how, you know, athletic and tough the animal is. Like it's almost like you don't even have to break it down to in a scientific way. You just know, like, you're eating a super athlete. Like, that's going to be like, when I was out hunting, I saw these elk. We were like, they're in the bottom of the canyon, and it pretty much from my angle looked like straight up. They got up this canyon like 150 yards, and it had to have been less than it was like 8 seconds, like 6 seconds. They just freaking boom right up to this, and I was just like what the heck, you know? And that's the muscle that you're consuming, and like they're every day just putting on the miles, running through the woods, running up and down the canyons. Like, you know, to me, it just makes sense that would be healthy because they're eating all organic grass, you know, and they're so active that like if I could be as athletic as an elk, like, I'm pretty sure I'll win any fight.
Yeah. It's funny when I remember one time in Colorado, I was hunting elk and I blew them out, and they went up over this canyon, over this saddle into the next side. And it was like 15 minutes they went up. It was a long ways. And so I worked my way up there, and it took me like 3.5 hours to get to that point. I'm like, how? Like, I literally watched them go the whole way up over, and the amount of time it took me to go there, I was like, this is, you know, they're just incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, like, why this is, you know, what I need to be consuming, right? Like, if I'm trying to be an apex predator, essentially, like in fighting, like that's what I need to be eating on a daily basis.
Yeah. So how do you, when it comes to you talking about nutrition and stuff, it sounds like you take it pretty seriously as far as for training and everything. What's that kind of look like for you from, I don't know how to ask this question, but like, what's it kind of look like from you from like a daily perspective of what you're eating and how you're training for it?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a pretty specific system that I kind of have honed in on, and I'm always, you know, trying to make tweaks and improvements and stuff. And I just think nutrition is so personal that I don't like to like give advice on it. I don't like to be like, this is what you need to do, you know, but for me, what I like to do and what works best for me is I smash protein. I like to get a lot of healthy fats. And then when I'm consuming carbs, I'm generally consuming carbs that aren't crazy if affecting my blood sugar. So like sweet potatoes, white potatoes. I'll do like grain-free, like I eat like grain-free tortillas with the brand Siete. So like I'm not, and of course like veggies and fruits and stuff. But I pretty much eat, like, I haven't bought store-bought meat since I got my elk back. So I have some people that will like send me, they'll send me steaks and stuff like that, different companies. So I eat a lot of beef. I eat elk. I'll eat, then like sweet potatoes, vegetables. And then I supplement a decent amount of organs. So I'll do like desiccated liver, heart, testicle, stuff like that. I don't really have a good source to get that stuff raw. So I do pills. But I mean, if I could find a good source, I would definitely do like as many organs as I could. And then I do like raw dairy. So there's a good farm near me called Bear Meadows that they do like this awesome organic grass-fed raw milk. And it's like literally the best thing I've ever drank in my life. So I smash that. And then they have raw organic cheeses as well that I'll smash. But yeah, that's pretty much my diet. I just try to keep it simple. And I'll just eat till kind of instinctually, like I feel full. I don't really track calories. I don't track my macros. I just eat whole foods, a lot of proteins that I know are from good sources. And yeah, that's about it for me. Luckily for me, I don't worry about it a ton because my wife is getting her master's in nutrition. So yeah, I'm pretty set up on that department. So she takes care of a lot of like, the specific stuff, and like I just whatever. Yeah, it's easy for me, but that's pretty much my mindset when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I've had a couple people on the podcast around nutrition that are specialists in it and professionals in that space, and my outlook, like from talking to them and just through my own personal kind of journey with it, is just like, got to find something sustainable. There's like so many crazy different avenues you can go with it. And like you said, everybody's body's different. Like for me, I had Lyme's disease, which led to me having a gluten and dairy intolerance. So I'm not like full blown celiac, or I'm not going to die if I have any of that stuff, but I just avoid it. I don't eat dairy, which I love dairy, but I don't eat it because I feel shitty, when I have it. I get, as far as inflamed and congestion and all those different things. So I just avoid it. And same thing with gluten. So most of the grains and everything, I just eat. My body does really well with a lot of protein and fats, and that's just kind of what most of my diet is. I could do better on the vegetable side of things. I was buying some, like, when I was working my regular job and then doing this, and I was always busy and I was traveling and everything, I would buy like these pre-made meals that I would get for like, just for like lunches, like things that I could have. And then I would like cook dinners that I would just like make a mass amount of like one thing and then have it throughout the week. But that helped me get my vegetables when I was eating those. But now that I'm working from home, I can't justify the cost with it, that I can just make my own food and not be lazy with it. So that's been kind of the outlook. But I think in general, just like nutrition, whether it's, an athlete or you're a hunter and you're doing on these things, like it can play such a big role in being, the mental clarity side of it, the physical capability side of it, especially when you're doing big game hunting and even tree stand hunting in Pennsylvania. If you're going to be spending days on end sitting in a tree constantly and trying to keep your mind on it, and if you start just, stuffing whatever kind of candy bars or whatever else that you have, or anything that like messes with your blood sugar, and then you have those highs and then you crash, and then you're not always there and you're not always focused. So that's kind of where I really started paying attention to it, was to do better in those situations, and learn that, like, going out west, it was I needed to consume a lot more calories than I would on a daily basis, because at one time I went on a 14-day hunt and my body just like crashed, because I was taking in like, I just packed food in a gallon bag and it was like 2,500 calories. Yeah. And I never tracked it normally, so I didn't know how much I typically, took in. But when you're hiking, anywhere from 6 to 12 miles in a day with a 30 to 40 pound pack on, up and down elevation, you're burning, like, I think I had it calculated, it was like you're burning like 7 to 7,500 calories, and there's no way you can possibly consume all of that back, but you need to reduce that gap a little bit more to be able to help you perform with that.
Oh, 100%. I think the fact that I was able to have such a strong foundation with wrestling and with fighting, where I'm really aware of my nutrition, and, for a fight or for a wrestling match, like I have to make weight, I have to be disciplined with it. It translates over so well into hunting, because it's the same idea. Like, if I want to be the best hunter I can be, the best version of myself, and be able to take down these animals, like, I got to be in shape and I got to be fueled properly. And just having that, background that I do, it's almost like I don't even think about it. I just do it. Like, yeah. If I'm getting ready to go hunt, like, it's the same as if I'm getting ready for a training session or getting ready for a competition. Like, it really translates over well. And that's something like that I feel like is a big advantage for me when I do come into hunting, because anytime I'm going around, like, I'm in the best shape. Like, there's not really, there's probably other hunters that, like, I mean, yeah, you have like crazy dudes like Cam Hanes that are running 200-mile marathons. They're probably in a better shape than me in that regard. But like, I'm hanging in there with at the top of the top. So yeah, that's the one thing that I don't even really have to worry about is what type of shape am I in? Am I ready to go on a 2-week backcountry hunt? Like I can drop everything and do that right now. I don't need to get in shape for it.
Yeah, yeah, because you're literally training for that, not specifically, but you're training for that every day, and that
Exactly.
correlates, and you're used to being able to work under that stress on your body and your mind, and being able to, so it's just kind of goes hand in hand. And even when I've had trainers and stuff on this podcast, and it's just like you're just, if you're consistently working at something every day, and you're having that discipline and working at it, like you just want to have kind of like that always ready mindset, and that you could that was one thing. I work with a trainer, Todd Bumgardner, and he had trained a bunch of athletes, a bunch of special forces guys and everything, and he was just like, I want you to be at the point where no matter what, someone could call you and say, hey, I want you on a sheep hunt in Alaska tomorrow, that you could go, and you're not, oh, I need to start working out or preparing for it. And I just think that, with you, and that's why, there's so many correlations with the fighting and the wrestling aspect to hunting, is just like that discipline of doing these things all the time just translates into success in all those different endeavors.
Oh, for sure. And I think like a lot of people don't realize what goes into hunting, and there's a lot of hunters that don't really, I think, set good examples of what it means to be a hunter. Like, dudes, I think most people that don't hunt think, oh, it's just like some big belly dude that goes out, drink a beer, and like shoots a baby deer at like 25 yards and like then calls it a day, like out of his truck, like, and some people are bad examples. Some people kind of live that life where it's like, that's just how they handle themselves. But yeah, I think if you really want to like truly be a hunter, if you really truly want to like have that as your lifestyle, you have to be in great shape, and you have to be ready to go, like you said, at any moment. Because I have heard tons, it hasn't happened for me yet, but I have heard tons of stories of people where they're like, hey man, we're going to hunt Alaska, like hunt bears right now. Like, you want to go? Or we're going on a sheep hunt like tomorrow. Like, can you go? And you got to be ready. So, I'm sure like, at some point that'll probably happen for me where they're just like, hey, here's an opportunity, either take it or you don't. And there's, with what I'm realizing with hunting too is like between drawing tags and carving time out to do it, like it really has to be something that you're committed to. It's not just like you don't just get to do these amazing hunts just like off the rip. Like, I've been blessed that I was fortunate to like have private land that I can go hunt on in Colorado, but that's not how it usually works. And, I only have, and since I am so passionate about this, I'm not just going to go back there every year. Like I'm going to try to see as much as I can, see as much country as I can. I want to be doing like, 14-day backcountry hunts in Montana by myself. Like that's the type of stuff that I want to build into. So, I think a lot of people, again, just to like hammer that is they don't know what goes into it. It's a whole lot. And even myself, like I'm sure there's going to be so much I know there's so much that I need to learn to be able to do something like that, like a backcountry DIY hunt. But I'll get there.
Yeah, no, and what you brought up some good points there, and like it's literally is a journey, like to get to these certain places. And when I first started Western hunting specifically, I guess it was like 7 years ago now, and when I did, I read Cam Haynes' book Backcountry Bow Hunting, and I was like, oh man, like I need to go find the steepest, deepest country, backpack in, do all these things. And I was like, all right, and that I'm so glad I did that. But I also think that people could get a lot of benefit from saving their money and going with a guide and learn, and not just like being a body there that lets the guide do everything, like be an active participant and learn those things, and learn the skills that might take you 3 or 4 years to learn, even half of that on your own, and to be able to do that. And then if you want to go out and do it on your own, go ahead and do that. And I think there's no right or wrong way how to do that, but I think that there's a lot of value in going with an outfitter, or somebody that's experienced, if you're lucky enough to have somebody like you have with your uncle, that to be able to learn from, instead of, just being strong-minded and saying you're going to do it all on your own, because you're going to be kicked in the balls a couple times.
Oh, I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, like, it would just be dumb to assume, like, myself with so limited hunting experience that I would be able to go do a backcountry hunt at this point. Like, I think it totally makes sense to save your money and hire an outfitter and have guides. And again, I always will take the stance of trying to learn from these experiences and learn from these people, so that I can be self-sufficient and at some point do it myself. And that's why I watch so many videos and so many tutorials and how-tos and read so many articles, is because, like, yeah, there's an aspect of those videos that are entertaining, but I want to learn. I want to know, like, what do I need to do if I am glassing a ridge and I see a 360 bull like 2 miles away? Like, how do I need to move to put myself in the right position to give myself a chance with that animal? And, what do I need to be paying attention to? What do I need to be looking for? Like, there's so much that goes into it, and there's so many people that know a lot, and some people I don't think want to share, but I think nowadays more and more people want to pass that wisdom on. And I think you just kind of have to be, like, humble and understand that, there's a lot to learn from these guys, and a lot of them are cool and want to share that and want to pass that information on. And so for me, yeah, I'm 100% going to be using guides and continuing to do that, not only now when I'm early in my career, but probably continually, throughout until I can't hunt anymore. And then, sprinkle in those do-it-yourself hunts when I really feel compelled to, and want to test myself in a way.
Yeah. And there's so much too, like, I remember when I did that first, backpack hunt, I was like, oh, well, I've hunted deer my whole life. Like, I can figure out elk. And I tried, I got a lot of good information, the internet and books, and there's so much good information, Cam's book and all that stuff, but nothing is like being with somebody that has done it and knows it and can help you read situations as you see it. And you can be a super athlete like yourself. You could be really good at backpacking and knowing the gear in that aspect. But, like, until you get all that stuff put together and do it, it's difficult to be able to I guess, be consistently successful at it. And I don't know, like, the big reason I started this podcast 4 years ago is, like, I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to be able to, and selfishly learn for myself, and then also be able to, help others as I, got into doing some of this stuff. And I think that, if you're willing to just, check the ego at the door sometimes and just learn from people that are, better than yourself, it can be a really rewarding thing.
Oh, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, experience is the best teacher, right? But we don't have unlimited time on our hands. There's only a certain amount of time each year that we get to hunt, and you only have a certain amount of years hunting. So yeah, we can try to learn as much as you can from experience, but there's a ton of people out there with a lot of experience too, that you don't have to do it yourself to learn from them, right? Like, there's so many people that have been so successful hunting animals. And that's why, like, if anybody's gonna, whenever, it's the same thing as with fighting, as hunting. If I'm going to listen to somebody tell me what to do, like, I better see some reasons why. Like, if you're a fighter and you're telling me how to fight, like, okay, do you have 20 professional fights? Have you won a UFC belt? Like, why are you telling me what to do? And, like, if you're a hunter telling me what to do, I'm like, okay, have you shot a big bull? Like, have you killed a lot of animals? Like, I don't know what's your reasoning for telling me what to do? And yeah, if you've been just crushing it, killing animals, and you're successful year over year, there's a lot to, I'm 100% going to be humble and respectful and want to learn from the types of people that are successful in that way. And it's really weird too, because I feel like it's kind of the same in hunting as it is in fighting. There's a lot of people that, like, say stuff and give advice, and there's really a small amount that actually know. So I'm trying to figure out like not in both arenas, because I've honestly been hunting about the same amount of time I've been fighting. So I'm trying to like weed out who's telling me what to do just to tell me, and who's like actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, and it is funny too, because I mean, and now anybody can create a YouTube channel, anybody can set a camera on themselves and film how to do something, and there's not really like a barrier to entry, so to speak. So it can be difficult to know where to get your information from, but it really doesn't take that long if you start digging a little bit in to see what people are actually doing the thing and what people are just talking about the thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I always say on this podcast, when it comes to like Western hunting, like that's why I get people on that are way better than myself, to just ask them the questions that other people want to, because I don't have that resume when it comes to Western hunting. It's just, that's what it is. I hope to be there at some point, but that's not where I'm at, where, you know, like if someone that's done it for a long period of time, like you're never going to see me, you know, in the next 10 years come out and be like, all right, this is how you kill an elk. You know, that's just not going to be the situation. Unless you've, you know, done it for a long period of time and have this well-built resume, you just got to be careful, I guess, who you're listening to.
Yeah, sure. I love to listen, and like when I do find somebody that like really has experience and knows what they're talking about and has been successful, I love hearing their experiences and stories and what happened. I mean, the hunting stories is like such a cool thing, and you know, for me, that's something I really want to share when I have kids. You know, hopefully I have a few sons and whatnot, and that's something we can do together and to continue that on, because like I love the culture of hunting. I love like what it does for people and how it really brings you together with nature. And again, it's like very ingrained in our DNA, I think, as humans. And so I just want to, like you, I don't know, I have no business telling anybody what to do hunting wise, but hopefully like when I do have kids and they're old enough to get out there, like I can have enough experience at that point to share what I know with them, and just to continue that tradition.
Yeah. And you have two really good places where you have that tradition. You know, Colorado, you have that awesome tradition, that Western hunting tradition, and with, you know, being able to have that outfitting business and having people come to camp and that aspect. And then Pennsylvania has the best deer camp tradition in the country, in my opinion. Michigan people might want to fight me over it, but like there's so many hunters there and going to camp, and like I look up to like listening to my dad, because my dad's been a successful whitetail hunter. I don't think he's went a year without killing a deer since he was, you know, I don't know, in his early 20s, if not, you know, younger, and always just being successful and always working at it. So like whenever I spend time with him, like I'm just a sponge, and I just want to learn more, and we're at camp telling stories, and it's a really cool thing. And I'm sure it's, you know, that same way with fighting and wrestling and being at camps and doing all those different things and learning from people there.
Oh, for sure. Like I've been fortunate. So my gym that I built out here in Central PA is the branch of American Top Team. So American Top Team is pretty much the number one gym in the country. The main location in Coconut Creek, Florida, right north of Fort Lauderdale, has like, I don't know, 150, 200 pro fighters and tons of champs and former champs. And so for me, I just try to do the same thing like you, like soak up all, like I'm down there probably every other month, and I just try to soak up all the information from all those guys that have been so successful. And it's just cool to like experience that culture. Like I think, you know, I lived in the wrestling world and then embraced the wrestling culture for a really long time. And so you hear stories and meet people and stuff like that. And there's so many little individual niches like that, like wrestling, hunting, fighting, you know, and I just love, I think all those people are kind of cut from the same cloth in a way. They're just like good, down to earth people that like want to get better at what they're doing. And it's just something that's like kind of wholesome about that pursuit, and then kind of pure in a way where like it's a little out of the ordinary. Like the average person probably isn't going to really gravitate towards it, but the few that do I've just met so many good people.
Yeah. And you know, what's funny is like, when I look at like my friend group and some of the people that I hunt with, a lot of them have, a wrestling background and everything. It's like, those are the guys that I typically go on like these, backcountry hunts and stuff with, because they know the discipline, they know the work ethic, like they have that built into them already. So it's just like it's a very easy swap to be able to do it. I'm very, very picky on who I'll like hunt with, and especially on like, tough hunts, because you don't know how people are going to operate. But I've always just seen like this, and even in life, like I have a lot of respect for wrestling and the people that do it, because like any of my friends that have done it and all that, whether it's in hunting or anything else after wrestling, like they've just been successful in it, because I feel like they just have known that discipline at a young age to go through. And I think it's a really incredible sport, and I think it's something that teaches a lot of things. And I'm sure fighting's the same way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if I were to say like one thing that is like the main correlation between, wrestling, fighting, and hunting, it would be delayed gratification. Like you have to be willing to delay that and be disciplined, put in the work, put in the time with nothing to show for it for a long time in order to get that prize. And it's probably like that in a lot of different areas, but I just, for me specifically, really see that, starting so young with wrestling. And I had success at a young age, but I also, failed a lot. And there was a lot of tournaments that I didn't win, and a lot of matches that I did lose, that kind of helped me grow and helped me build and improve to get to where I was. And so there was, for every match I won, probably, 10,000, there was another 100 hours of work that I put in to win that match. And so I think that a lot of people that just see that success, and they just see the trophy, or me get my hand raised, or in hunting, they just see, me with the elk already killed. Like they don't see like everything that it took to get there. And it's the same in wrestling and fighting and hunting. Like you have to be willing to put off that short-term, like you have to be able to put off those short-term hard times and that feeling of defeat, knowing like, hey, the success is right on the horizon. And just like keep pushing and get there. And a lot of times you'll feel like, if you do lose a match, you make it to the finals and you lose, or you do go on a hunt and you're unsuccessful, it's like a letdown, but it's like, you can't let that stop you. Like you got to let it motivate you. And again, the gratification is just delayed a little longer in that aspect. And so, yeah, for me, I look at it like I might lose here and there, but at the end, I'm going to come out on top, because I just won't quit. Like it's not an option for me. And whatever I'm doing, I'm never going to quit. I'm never going to stop. I'm just going to keep pursuing that. And the longer I do that, it pretty much approaches certainty that I'm going to achieve my goals.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of really good points there. And when as you've been doing this from such a young age, competing and having to be this way, how do you deal with, or do you have like where you just kind of like get burned out on something for a period of time, or maybe it's a day or whatever it is? Like how do you get your mind right to kind of get through those different scenarios?
Yeah, man, that's a really great question. It's really interesting to think about. And to be 100% honest, like this is probably going to seem abnormal or weird, but like I never ever felt that with wrestling. Like I never once felt like I wanted to, like I was burnt out, or I didn't want to keep pursuing it. It was like always my number one thing I was most passionate about, that I love the most. And every single day, like as a kid, I would finish school and just be hyped to go to practice. Like, and that's not to say that it wasn't hard, right? Like I would be in there and there would be times where it was difficult. And yeah, maybe in the moment I wanted to quit, but there was never an issue for me where I needed like extra motivation to push me to achieve my goals. And I think that's part of why I was really successful, is because when I was, 7, 8 years old, I told him, I'm like, I'm going to be an NCAA champ. Like, I knew that from that age. And I went, 15 years of work to achieve that. And again, it was hard. There was times where I freaking cried, where I got crushed from losing a match, where I was devastated, where I was depressed, sad, down, but I never, ever wanted to stop doing it. And I think that God just really put that in my heart and just really just made me that way, to where my passion always overrides all those little voices in your head that like tell you to quit, and that's just really the foundation of why I do what I do and why I pursue the things I pursue. Now I really wholeheartedly feel that about fighting, and I really wholeheartedly feel that about hunting. And I know those are things that I'm never going to get sick of. It doesn't mean, and I think that to kind of come full circle and answer your question, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be difficult. It doesn't mean that things you're going to go through aren't going to be hard and that you're not going to always have fun. But I think that when you're truly passionate about something, even through the times that are hard and difficult and not fun, you'll know why you're doing what you're doing, and that'll carry you through it.
Yeah. I think you answered that question really well. And, from talking to a ton of very successful people and reading books of successful people, I'm always fascinated, like, their mindset, but I feel like there's a few things that are always in common. And one is confidence in themselves and, having that vision, like, this is where I'm going. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter where I'm at now. It's just like, and always having that as a driving factor, because you're no superhuman from the aspect of you're going to have days where you fail and you're not doing, what you want to do or where you want to be at. But essentially it's the people that just like continually put in that work and keep working at it that seem to always, come out on top. And I see that with hunting too. There's a lot around right now with tags being harder to get than they used to be, and more hunting pressure. And it's like, but look at the top people. The people that are the best at what they do are still getting it done every year, and they have been for the last however many years. It doesn't matter if it's been 5 years or 30 years. They've been doing it, and they've been doing it consistently with changes in times. This isn't the first time that, something came and made something harder,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I completely get that. And I think to kind of correlate that with fighting, there's a lot of people that complain about different stuff like, oh, this guy gets special treatment, or, oh, this guy gets his fights handpicked, or, oh, this guy gets paid more money. And so, that's why this happened. That's why that happened. And for me, I'll never have that mindset. Like, I'm never going to be like worrying about what other dudes are doing and how it is compared to me and stuff. Like, I'm here to achieve what I have set out to achieve. My goal is to be the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. And I'm a 1-0 pro right now. And so a lot of people are like, dude, like, shut up, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, man, just because my goals seem unrealistic to you, that literally means nothing. And I honestly couldn't care less what you have to say about it. That's my goal. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. Nobody's going to change that, and nobody's going to stop me from achieving that, because I know it's my responsibility. I know that at the end of the day, I'm the one that's got to do it. It's not going to be luck. It's not going to be somebody, teaching me a secret special move. It's going to be me putting in the hours, putting in the time every single day, being consistent. And I think that when I was just listening to a podcast, and one of the guys said, if you consistently work and you give yourself enough time, you can pretty much achieve any goal, as long as you give yourself enough time to do it. And so for me, like, I know I'm not going to be the number 1 pound for pound fighter in a week or a month or probably a year, but I'm going to keep working at it until I achieve that goal. And if I take a loss along the way, which I'm not planning on doing, oh, well, I don't care. I'm on to the next, and the goal remains the same. And I think that translates to every area. People complain about, oh, this guy gets this tag or this guy gets on here. It's like, well, who's there working every day? Like, who's out there getting it? Like, you're obviously not, because you're sitting here whining about him doing it.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I love what Cam always says is must be nice. It's that mentality. Yeah, it's that whole
Exactly,
thing.
right?
He gets more hate than anybody I've seen. And it's because he excels at what he
Yeah.
does, and people don't like people that do really well and do extraordinary things. So
My favorite comments on his page are the ones where the guys are like, "Why are you shooting so close to your truck?" Like,
yeah, yeah,
like, yo, you're gonna shoot your window out, man. And I'm just like, you're such an idiot, bro. Like, what are you even saying? So, like, the other day I posted I was shooting my bow at 20 yards, and I had like my house behind it, and some guys like, and I had like 5 people comment. They were like, they're just like calling me idiot and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? You probably don't even shoot, bro. Like, what's going on? Why are you complaining about it? Like, you're out here whining on my page. Like, get out of here. It's just funny.
Yeah, those people are just unhappy with themselves. They have to project it onto others that are doing things that they'd like to do, or who knows? I don't even try to understand it. It's not worth it. But no, I think you really hit that one home, and I think that applies in really anything. Doesn't matter if it's fighting, hunting, wrestling, whatever. It's having that mindset and willing. It's one thing to have the mindset and not willing to put into work, but if you combine the two there, I think it's I think anything's reasonable.
For sure. And I think, like, so to give an example, my goal coming into college was I wanted to be a 4-time undefeated national champ. Like, that was it. It was that or the highway, like that or bust. And I didn't achieve that. Like, I was a 3-time national champion. I lost 3 times in college, right? And so I have people come up to me all the time, and they're like, tell me how great my career is and, how amazing I am and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, like, and how, like, I must have, like, exceeded expectations. I'm like, no, like, honestly, like, and so part of me, when I look back at my wrestling career, it's like a little, unsatisfying, unfinished. And because I didn't achieve what I set out to achieve. I pretty much set the highest possible goal for myself. But in that, had I had a goal to be like a 1-time national champion, and let's say I go into college and I decide I just want to win the nationals once. And so then I go all 4 years and lose, 10 times as much, and then win it my senior year, and I become a 1-time national champion. Like, is that better than when I achieve my goal exactly, but I only won it once, or when I won 3 times and only had 3 losses, but it didn't achieve my goal? So for me, like, I would rather shoot as high as possible and miss it by a little bit than like shoot low and hit it. So It's like, I might as well say, like, I'm going to the absolute tippy top. Like, I'm doing the absolute most, because then it's like, I give if I go a little down and I don't achieve that, it still sucks, but it was still, great in its own way. And so that's kind of like, I have mixed feelings looking back at my college career, because I didn't achieve what I want to achieve, but I also know, like, how much work I put in and how valuable the process was of being able to go through all of that and experience everything that I did. Even more, that's even more valuable to me than achieving the goal. And I think a lot of people can't really see that. They can't really, use that and apply that to what they're doing in a practical sense. But since I've kind of done it, I know how to apply that to all the things I'm doing now.
Yeah, no, I think that mindset is incredible. And again, you typically only see that with the top performers and the ones that have those goals. And again, if you have your goals, down here, for anybody that's not watching a video, but down, in the middle ground there, and you hit it every time, it's like, how are you actually, getting better? How are you doing things where if you have those, those goals ahead of times? And when I started this podcast, like, I didn't have any reason to, but my goal was like, all right, my first goal was like, I'm going to do this for a living. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And it's like, oh, well, there's the market's already flooded. There's already too much, people out there doing it. There's all this. And it's just like, no, that was my goal the whole time. And there wasn't once that I doubted that. And it wasn't like, oh, I thought I was the best in the world. Or no, I just knew that if I just continually worked at it and just, got better and adjusted as I went, that I could, eventually accomplish that goal. And I think that, just that mindset is so huge.
Yeah, we have a really awesome sports psychologist that works with us at Penn State. And one of the things that she told me when I very first got here was that there's always going to be a million reasons not to do something, but there's only one reason to do it, and it's because you want to. And so, there's always going to be a million excuses of why you can't do this or why you can't do that. And other people will tell you that, and you can make them up in your own head. But at the end of the day, you only have to have one reason to do it. And it's like, if you want it, go get it. That's it. It's as simple as that. And I like to just you can complicate life and complicate achieving your goals and being successful as much as you want, right? Like, if I look at, becoming the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, I can list 10 million things that I have to do that. Or I can just say, no, this is what I want. I'm going to do it. And whatever I have to do to get there, it'll get done. And starts with a foundation of believing in yourself, knowing you, and I guess it starts first with knowing what you want to do, right? Just knowing that you want to do that. And then, going from there to believing in yourself and then putting in the work to make it happen. But yeah, it's so interesting. There's always going to be so many things come up in life that kind of try to, give you a reason not to do something. And how many people do you know that wanted, their life didn't really go as planned and they made decisions because of this or that or whatever, they didn't pursue something because of this. It's 99% of people, but for me, I'm just not going to live life that way. That's why I pretty much do the craziest possible things that you can. I'm throwing myself in a cage to fight another human, in a simulated death match.
Most primal thing that you can do.
Really. Yeah, exactly. Hiking back 20 miles into the wilderness that nobody's ever been to try to bring down a 400-inch bull. Just the crazy, that's how I want to live my life personally. So that's what I'm going to do. And nobody's going to give me a reason, including myself, to not do those things just because I'm not going to allow it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And mindset's such a powerful thing, man. And then just working to back it up. And I think that, I don't know. I just hope that anybody that's listening at this point should really pay attention to that and think about that in any aspect. And whether, you're brand new to hunting or brand new to whatever, just shoot big and if you really want it, and then put the work in for it.
100%. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, Bo, I'm sorry I kept you over here a little bit on the podcast. I told you an hour, and I think we went just a little bit over here. So I apologize for that, but I do appreciate you taking the time and out of your busy schedule and talking with me here. I think I could go all night talking about some of these things, but I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure to come on, and I love talking about this stuff and all these things that I'm passionate about. So, I appreciate it. It was great conversation, and maybe we'll do it again after this hunting season or something, and I can share another story, and I'm sure you'll have tons to share with me too.
Heck yeah, that we'll definitely have to do that. One last thing I wanted to say was, it was funny when I was talking to my buddy that was at that wrestling camp with you, that Adam, and he was like, I told him I was doing the podcast with you, and he's like, I bet he'll be happy to talk about something other than wrestling, for a little bit. And after hearing you today, it doesn't sound like you get sick of talking about it or anything either. So
I love it. I definitely enjoy talking with people that are passionate about something. And as long as whatever we have in common, I'm down to chat about it. But all the wrestling, fighting, hunting, I could talk with people all day about all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, tell people where they can find you, follow along with kind of your journey, follow along with now your fighting career, your hunting, all those different things. Yeah.
So you can check me out on Instagram and Twitter at NoBickal. That's NOBICKAL. And then my outfitting business is River Bottom Hunts. on Instagram. So you can check us out there too. And this will be our first year guiding. We're pretty much fully booked up for this year, but there's some spots for next year available if you want to hit us up.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And you definitely have the better spelling of the name Bo than I do, because it's easier. Everyone always asks me, what's that short for? Is that a nickname? What's that going on? So
keep it simple.
Keep it simple. All right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, Bo.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit eastmeetswesthunt.com, Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors, and Instagram at East Meets West Hunt. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.